My father never said I love you. Not once. Not in 25 years. Not when I was born. Not when I graduated. Not when I failed. And for most of my life, I told myself that meant he didn't feel it. I had not spoken to my father in 4 months before that night. Not because something happened between us. That was the strange part. Nothing ever happened. There was just silence. The kind that had been there so long it felt like furniture. My phone rang at 3 inches the morning. It was my Uncle Rashid. And the moment I saw his name on the screen at that hour, I knew. He said my father had collapsed. He said, "Come now. Please come now." I sat on the edge of my bed for a moment before I moved. And I am ashamed to say my first feeling was not fear. My first feeling was guilt. Because my first thought was, when did I last tell him anything real? I drove to the hospital in silence. No music. No calls. Just the road and my own thoughts. Uncle Rashid met me in the corridor. He told me it was a stroke. Left side. He was stable. But then he lowered his voice and said the thing that stopped me completely. His speech, Zain. He cannot speak. They don't know for how long. Cannot speak. My father, the man who communicated in grunts and silences even when he was perfectly healthy, could not speak. I almost wanted to laugh, and then I hated myself for it. I pushed open the door to his room slowly. He looked smaller than I remembered. The tubes, the monitors, the stillness. The stern, immovable man now completely still. His eyes opened. He saw me. Something moved across his face. Something I had no name for. He tried to speak. Nothing came. His hand lifted slightly from the bed, reaching, or gesturing, I couldn't tell. He looked at me like he had something urgent to say, like he had been waiting. And standing in that room at 4 in the morning, I realized something. I did not know my father at all. I knew his rules. I knew his silences. I knew the back of his head as he walked away from conversations. But I did not know him. The next day I went back to our childhood home to get his things. Or at least, that's what I told myself. I stood in his room, neat, austere, a prayer mat. One photograph on the wall, my mother, young, laughing. I opened his cupboard, old clothes, a pair of shoes he never threw away. And on the top shelf, a tin box. I told myself I was looking for his insurance papers. That is not entirely true. The tin was not locked. Inside letters, dozens of them, all addressed to me. None ever sent. I sat down on the floor. The handwriting was his. Small, careful. I had seen it on grocery lists and utility bills my whole life. But never like this. The first letter was dated the week I left for university. It said, "Beta, I watched you pack your bags this morning." Your mother cried. I did not. But I want you to know, and I cannot say this in front of you, I don't know how, that the day you were born was the best day of my life. I am not a man who knows how to say these things out loud. I am sorry for that. I stopped reading. I stared at the page for a long time. He wrote another one when I failed my second-year exam. The one I never told him about. That Mama somehow found out and told him anyway. That letter said, "Don't give up. Failure is just a detour." I failed my matriculation twice. I never told you that. I should have. My hands were shaking by now. There were 43 letters. One for every major moment in my life. My failures, my achievements, my arguments with him, all written. None sent, like a man who practiced saying "I love you" in an empty room his whole life, and never once said it to the person standing in front of him. That night, I sat with Uncle Rashid in the hospital cafeteria. Tea between us, the tin box on the table. I asked him why did Baba never send them. Rashid was quiet for a long time. Then he told me about my grandfather. A hard man. A man who believed that affection was weakness, that a father who said "I love you" to his children was not a real man. So my father grew up learning that love was something you swallowed, something you kept quiet. He tried not to repeat it. Rashid told me that. He said your father talked about you constantly, to everyone except you, at the mosque, at the shop, To me, every single time I saw him, your grades, your job. Something funny you said when you were 7 years old. He was still telling that story last year. I looked down at the table. He never told me any of that. Rashid said no. He didn't know how. And the older you both got, the more years of silence there were between you. The harder it became. The wall just kept getting taller. I thought about every time I had called my father cold. Every time I told people my father doesn't feel things. I had built a whole story about who he was. And I had been telling that story so long, I stopped checking if it was true. I went back to his room that night. He was awake. I pulled the chair close to his bed. I took out one of the letters, and I read it to him, out loud. My voice broke once. I kept going. He listened, his eyes usually hard, unreadable, filled. A tear moved down the side of his face. He did not look away. For the first time in my life, I was in a room with my father, and the silence between us was not empty. It was full, completely full. I finished the letter. I folded it, set it on the bed beside his hand. After a moment, his hand moved, slowly, and rested on top of mine. It was the first time he had touched me since I was a child. I counted that. I am not ashamed to say I counted it. 3 weeks later, he could sit up, a small whiteboard and marker on the tray beside him. I told him the doctor said speech therapy was going well. 6 weeks, maybe less. He picked up the whiteboard, wrote something slowly, turned it to show me. It said, "Proud of you." I stared at it. I said, "Baba, you had 43 letters, 43 chances." He wrote again, turned the board. It said 40 for now. I laughed, a broken, relieved laugh, and cried at the same time. He got his speech back, mostly. One side of his mouth doesn't cooperate the way it used to. Some words take longer than others, but he uses them now. He does not waste them on silence anymore. We sit in the garden now, most evenings. 2 chairs, 2 cups of tea. The same silence as before, but different. Completely different. One evening he said to me, "You know what I regret most?" I said, "What?" He said, "All those mornings. You'd leave for school. I'd watch from the window. Every morning. You never knew. I should have just opened the door. He should have. And so should I. We were both standing on opposite sides of the same door our whole lives. Too proud to turn the handle. That is the thing about silence between people who love each other. It isn't emptiness. It's everything you were too afraid to say, pressing against the walls. My Baba never said I love you. Until the day he couldn't speak and had to find other ways to say it. I am 25 years old. My father is 60. We wasted a lot of years, but we have today, and we are not wasting it.